Art of the Kickstart, Episode 11.
Welcome to the artofthekickstart.com, where entrepreneurs are constantly pushing the envelope to build businesses of greatness. Inventors are innovating and creating the products of the future, and backers stand strong for what they believe. These are some of the great thinkers, inventors, and leaders of our time. Here are their stories.
Hey guys, welcome to Art of the Kickstart. Today I'm extremely excited to have Shahriar Afshar on the line today. And before we get started, this guy's amazing. He's a physicist, has his own Wikipedia page, Invention of the Year, and now he's transforming virtual reality. Thanks so much for coming today, Shahriar.
Thank you, welcome, and I'm looking forward to having this conversation with you and your listeners.
I'm excited too. You've got some cool stuff to share. First, let's start off with a success quote, something you live by, something that motivates you.
Well, I personally believe that if you're not passionate about what you're doing in life, you're not really living. So I would say, passion is life. If you have something that you look forward to every time you wake up in the morning and you say, my goodness, I'm alive, I'm happy to be alive, I'm looking forward to do this. And guess what? Once you're passionate about what you like, first of all, you become successful in it because no matter what, you're going to put the hours and the time and the effort into it. And secondly, you're going to enthuse others and make other people excited about your ideas and share it with them. And they could see why you're passionate about what you're passionate about. And that goes a long way in life's history.
What are you passionate about? What makes you jump out of bed in the morning?
Personally, it's the truth. It's the immense power of truth that takes over everything else that anybody else wants to do in life. As a physicist, obviously, that's our job to go after the truth because we want to understand how the universe functions and why it does what it does and how it does it and all the magic behind the scenes. But that sort of teaches a lesson that truth is the most important element in everything else that we do because it's universal, it's always there, it always works, and it's completely independent of what other people are thinking about or liking it or not liking it. Gravity is gravity. You're gonna fall, if you're not careful. And so those types of things, to me, are the fundamentals of the existence of human beings on Earth. And if you understand those and if you apply them to your life on a daily basis, not only your intellectual life and understanding of things, but also in your personal life, what it ends up doing is it transforms you into somewhat of an embodiment of truth. You would be able to manifest things that often are ignored by the sort of less observant individuals, or you can see things that most people don't see. And, in that way, not only you enlighten yourself, but you have the opportunity to share it with others and hopefully make the world a better place. And then don't forget one of the most important truths is compassion and caring for other human beings. And those are the kinds of things that once you have the objective truth of scientific understanding combined with this subjective truth of human interest and compassion. And if you're spiritual and religious, obviously that element comes into it. Once you have these truths involved, there is really nothing that could go wrong with your overall plan in life.
So as a scientist, as somebody of reason, how do you take that? How does that benefit you in business as an entrepreneur, which it's kind of a cool career path switch? You used to be a professor, you've done research, and now you're running a business. How does that work?
It's interesting. Obviously, I'm still doing my physics research. That hasn't stopped. But as an entrepreneur, there are certain skill sets that you learn in academia that would help you. And some of those involve the ability to address complicated and difficult concepts and explain it to others. You obviously, as a business person, you need to raise funds, and you have to share your ideas with investors, and they need to understand exactly what it is that you're talking about and what it does and where it leads to. So those are skill sets that you need to have. You need to be able to lead teams. You need to be able to have good people's skills so that you can sort of allow others to do their best job and feel great about it and be a part of the team. And those are the things that as an academic you do. But there are other things that I had no idea about and I had very, very little understanding of until I actually failed a couple of times in business in a way, because as an academic or as an inventor even, you constantly think about ideas and think about concepts and things of that sort, and it's somewhat far removed from the world of human interest and needs, obviously. And in business, really what you do is you offer a solution to a need. And if that solution is economically viable and it's universally applicable, a lot of people like it and they buy it and they use it, and it's a successful business. So those kinds of things don't always come to mind for a physicist or usually even inventors. The fact is, less than 0.1% of patented inventions ever make it to a commercial success. And it's because most inventors don't really think about, well, is it going to be commercially viable or not? And we just, the passion part sort of takes over. So that the passion needs to be tempered with understanding the market, understanding the environment in which you're functioning.
How do you do that? How do you keep it practical and make sure you don't go abstract and build something no one wants?
Right. So I think this is one of those things that you either learn from others by reading their books, books like the likes of Richard Branson's books and Dale Carnegie's books. You read those and you understand what works and what doesn't work, or you just jump in and hit your head to a wall and you learn that actually, hey, some of these things that you're thinking about have no application. I'll give you an example. I think it was in the 90s, in the late 90s, I came up with this idea of, I don't know if you remember the Magic Eye puzzles. They were these little stereograms, random stereograms. You were supposed to stare at these pictures.
Ah, yes.
The 3D images popped out. So, that to me was an exciting thing because I could see a lot of people couldn't see it and they couldn't understand what was going on. Why are people staring at these things? So I said, okay, I'll invent something that you can actually put on, and it's like a pair of glasses you put on and you can see it. It just pops out immediately. And, I invented it and I was very excited about it. The thing is, it was a great idea. It worked. But it sort of, first of all, killed the whole buzz about this whole concept of staring at, this piece of paper. And secondly, the timing for it was wrong. In other words, I actually came at the very end of that fad, and it became irrelevant in a sense because, okay, now you've got the glasses, but no longer the material exists. So some of these things you sort of learn by mistake. You do it, you try to bring it out to the market, and you see, oh my goodness, okay, I've lost that. The biggest lesson I learned from all that was to give you an example, you sort of need to be like a surfer. And what I mean by that is that what a surfer does is just in the ocean, just looking all the way back, not like amateurs, but he's looking all the way back to see what type of a wave is coming towards him. And is this wave something that he can ride or can't ride? He either ignores it or gets ready for it. Once he sees it coming his way, he prepares himself with all the necessary stances and gestures and everything else he needs to put together and rides it at the very tip of it and makes sure that he doesn't fall behind it. And these are the things that I learned as an observer in the industry. For a while, I just, everything I do, I sort of approach in a scientific way. Before I jump into it, I investigate the field. I look at the players. I go to various conferences related to understand the layout. And in consumer electronics world, it took me about 3 years to fully understand what types of trends were taking on, what types of trends were dying off. And once you find the trend, then you got to be first to know, first to decide, and first to act. Because if you lose any of those three, you're going to miss the boat. And it happens all the time. Fortunately today, the advent of social media, internet access to all kinds of material out there allows people to find a good sense of what's going on in the marketplace. And once you figure out what field you're interested in and what field you're passionate about, and especially if you're an inventor, you invent in a particular field that you feel is relevant, then comes the hard part, which is making the thing work, making it, as I said, commercially viable and universally applicable and manufacturable, cost effective, and putting the whole team together that does the marketing. By the way, marketing is the most important element in everything any entrepreneur does. And that's, I would say, after your legal coverage, you got to take care of your marketing first.
Most definitely. And I think you're definitely in a better position now. You're riding the wearables wave. You're riding the virtual reality. We've beat around the bush for a while. Tell people about CoreFX. What did you guys create and how did you come up with the idea?
Well, CoreFX is an invention of mine, as we discussed. It's basically the initial reasoning for it was I was a visiting professor at a university, and it was summertime, and these kids were playing games all the time, and I was in the middle of my fight with colleagues on the Afshar experiment, and I had to write up very serious response papers. And the vibrations of the bass of the games just completely distracted me. Even though I put my earplugs in, I couldn't hear the sound. I could feel it. And after a while, I just decided, I shouldn't just harass the kids. They want something. They're getting something out of these games and the base of it that is visceral, and they love it. So why don't I come up with a solution to it that actually is science-based and it works and it does what it's supposed to do, but at the same time avoids having the whole place vibrate and shake. That was really the reason. So I started thinking about it. I put my neuroscience background into it. Obviously the physics side, which is the chest cavity and the resonance in the chest cavity, all that stuff came together. And, that's how CoreFX was born. Obviously, once you come up with a concept you test, then as a scientist, you decide, okay, that's not good enough. I have to try everything else. And I did that. The funny thing is the first idea I did was great. It worked. But then I decided, okay, I'm going to test everything else. And that took me about 6 months to actually figure out, okay, the first one was the best. So that's how it came about. But this is one of the rare inventions that I personally actually started to use from that point on personally. So I watched movies with it and listened to music with it. I played games with it. And from that point, I sort of realized, okay, this thing has real viability in the commercial world, and obviously I tried it on my cousins and relatives and friends, and they loved it, and then we took it from there.
Yeah, it seems like an amazing idea. I can see avenues in so many different arenas: virtual reality, video games, military training. There's a lot that your product can do. How do you go about bringing something like this? You've got this idea in your head. How do you bring it to market once you've got these prototypes ready to roll?
Well, I think one of the most important elements in every product launch is to figure out what your target market is. And especially with a technology like this that's almost universally applicable because it's at the sort of intersection of all things media, from games to video, to movies to music and all the platforms, because it's just audio input. When you have something that big, what happens is you can get very easily distracted into all kinds of fields. And for a while, I actually did. I was all over the place with the movie side, with the music side, with all of those. And at some point, you realize, okay, I need to focus and make sure that the product reaches the first adopters first. Because in any technology, especially in a technology like this, the early adopters are the ones that are going to promote your technology for you. And if it works and they're enthused about it, it just takes a life of its own. And we sort of see that now with some of the YouTube videos and things like that of the CoreFX gaming applications, because people love it and they understand what it's doing and they get excited about it. And so from that point of view, we sort of decided that a particular group or a subgroup in the gaming world is the best place to start with. The form factor, initially we started with the plastic version. That's the one that won the best invention of the year because it's universally applicable and everything is portable. But then you realize that the gamers, especially in the first-person shooter games, Counter-Strike, Call of Duty, and those massive franchises, are the early adopters in this field because it sort of gives them a little bit of a competitive edge, knowing where the sniper shot is coming from, or where the enemy
Describe
is.
how it works before we go deeper into that. Describe how the vest actually works. How do you feel the game, feel the audio?
Absolutely, yes. So let me explain very simple concept behind core effect. If you put your hands like an X on upper right and left corners of your shoulder and of your chest, and you say something like out loud 1, 2, 3, what you're gonna do that right now, Matt? Put your hands like an X up there and say something out loud 1, 2, 3.
2, 3.
You see, you feel those vibrations and at the tip of your fingers. What happens is these vibrations are being monitored by the brain all the time. And the brain knows that it's you because it's your voice cords and the vibrations are happen at the same time as your chest as you're talking. So the brain thinks that every time this vibration takes place, it's you, it's the self. So this is the science of it, right? The neuroscience, how it works. What we've done with CoreFX is CoreFX puts 2 very high fidelity, high definition haptic vibrators. That means like they produce vibrations in sort of sync with the audio that you're hearing, right on the upper right and left corners of your chest, right? So what happens is if there's an explosion to the right, not only do you hear it on the right headphone or the speaker, but you also feel it on the right part of your chest. This is not just a simple, okay, here's a vibration. This is what is called a synergistic effect. All of a sudden, the combination of the vibration on the right and the audio on the right becomes this huge effect that the brain thinks, oh my God, there is a serious event happening on the right. And that's how your brain interprets this immersiveness. And because the self-centers in the brain are activated, it's like it becomes personalized. You say, oh my goodness, it happened to me personally. And you all of a sudden are transformed into the game. You literally feel like you're there.
It's like an adrenaline rush.
Just took a shot. It is. It absolutely is. Absolutely, yeah. In fact, sometimes when I want to, wake up early in the morning and I want to jazz up, I just listen to some rock music with it, and it just wakes me up.
That's awesome. So you've got this, and you win a PopSci Design Award, your Invention of the Year in 2010. And you're bringing this to market. Why did you guys choose now, and why crowdfunding?
Well, it's a matter of, as I said, the trends and understanding what type of marketing you need to put forward to make sure that the right people get it first. Because what we realized was that this whole concept of feeling things within games is, will be mainstream very soon after the first adopters understand it. But you need to have that early adopters to experience it and start to evangelize it on, various social media networks. And what happens is, obviously, their feedback is going to play a huge role for us in terms of what you can do with it. The way I analogize this is, what I've done is, it's almost like I've discovered a new sense. Like here is a way to feel things way beyond the field of view that you can see, and you can see, feel things happening all the way outside the frame of view. What do you do with that? It's almost like a spidey senses. You feel stuff happening out there.
I like it.
So, where do you go with that, and how do you do it? The best way of doing it is let everybody else try it. Let everybody else try it. The early adopters try it. The out-of-the-box thinkers try it, and come back to you and tell you, okay, look, this part of it was great. This part of it sucked, and this is what you need to do to improve it. And those types of feedbacks are essential for us, and obviously Kickstarter is the best crowd for this type of feedback.
Yeah, I think it's definitely Kickstarter, Reddit, that kind of stuff is right up the alley of CoreFX. And I want to jump into the launch round now. Are you ready, Shahriar?
Go for it.
Guys, thanks for listening to artofthekickstart.com. I wanted to let you guys know, special offer I've got worked out with audible.com. If you guys go to artofthekickstart.com/audible, you can get a free audiobook, a 1-month download to listen to whatever you want. From Think and Grow Rich and The 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, 2 books that I've recently read, to hundreds of thousands of others. Audible has everything that you guys need. It's just like a podcast. You can find amazing books that our guests are recommending. Check them out. It's a great way to learn. Again, artofthekickstart.com/audible. Thanks, guys. Welcome to the launch round, where we take our guests through a series of rapid-fire questions geared towards unlocking the inner inventor and entrepreneur in all of us.
get ready to blast off and unlock your inner potential. So what does it mean to be an inventor?
Well, to be an inventor means to be a number of different things. To be very observant and sensitive to problems that need to be addressed. And at the same time, a good inventor is an inventor that is practical and understands economic viability of a solution.
What did you want to be when you were a kid? What did you want to grow up to?
I wanted to be a know-it-all.
Oh, yeah, that's why you're a physicist. So where do you see humanity going in the next 50 years?
That's a very interesting question. I think I pray that we are going to be more humane, but I see that we have discovered a lot more about ourselves, that we are now opening up very interesting vistas of experience, and the likes of Core Effects are opening that genre that allows us to feel beyond our usual senses and sort of become more supernatural in a sense, experience things that we didn't think that we could as human beings experience. But, hopefully we will use all of that with the compassion and caring to better understand and empathize and sympathize with each other.
Yeah, speaking of Spidey, great power, great responsibility, right?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Books are huge in people's lives. What have been 3 that have been amazingly influential in your own?
3, huh? Okay, well, as an entrepreneur, I would tell you that Dale Carnegie's suite of books, the best one, in my opinion, is, and the shortest, sort of to-the-point book is The Leader in You. It's an old book, but it's universally applicable all the time. The concepts and principles there are supreme in terms of human relations, in terms of understanding business, in terms of understanding your position in business. And so I think that's a great book. There are other books that I personally have loved, and one of them was, Einstein's The Way I See the World, and his insight into all things, both scientific and human or humane, were amazingly influential on me. And there are other ones. I admire Richard Branson. He's a friend, and his book, How I Lost My Virginity in Business, is also a very, very good book. It's a fantastic read.
He's a friend. Do you know Richard?
I know him. I know him through his charity, and we've the Virgin Unite, and I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Uh-oh, we're going to put you on the spot here then. What entrepreneurial heroes do you have? Who do you look up to?
Well, Richard is one of them. Richard is a kind of guy that has incredible human skills and understand business is not simply numbers. It's not simply making money. It's about improving life in general and how to go about doing that. And, he has inspired me in many ways in terms of understanding how to interact under various situations with different conditions in business, and how to make sure that you don't let an opportunity slip when it comes to it. And the greatest thing I learned from him is, failure is the mother of success. Keep failing, but fail better next time.
Fail better, fail faster, right?
Exactly.
And last question, it'll be kind of fun because you're a physicist. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Any superpower? I think the most important power you want to have is the ability to sympathize and see everything from everybody else's point of view and feel what they feel. Because then you would be able to be a part of their lives and leave a positive effect.
That's really powerful, and it's something that all of us actual people can actually strive towards at the very least. And now we're going to jump out of the launch round, get into a little bit more wisdom stuff about you and your business. So if you had to go back, you had to start this Core FX campaign all over again, what would you do differently? What would you change?
Well, I think, hindsight is 20/20, and you always think about, why we did some of the things that we had to do initially. Given the time and when we started things, I don't think we could have done anything that much more differently. The fact is, Kickstarter did not exist when I invented the idea. Some of the patent work wasn't done, so we had to finalize all of those, make sure we get the patents. In this business, having intellectual property is extremely important. And especially if it's a game-changer technology, it needs to be protected well so that everybody in the industry knows where they stand, and you protect yourself from, God forbid, copycats and so on and so forth. But at the same time, find good partners. So this is the most important thing. But had we had access to Kickstarter or things of this nature, I would have started earlier on, and I would have put it in the market earlier on so that we could have had the initial feedback sooner. But I think that's really it. Otherwise, I surrounded myself with the best people in various fields, from legal to business, and the advice we got, most of it was very, very helpful. And that's another suggestion I would have to entrepreneurs. Don't do everything yourself. It is something that we tend to ignore as entrepreneurs, but it's very dangerous. The best thing to do is learn who's best and available to you in a particular field, and let them do their jobs in that field. And without a doubt, you have a much higher success rate than usual.
And then last question. You've been an amazing guest today, Dr. Afshar. If you could give one piece of advice to inventors, entrepreneurs, people out there that want to create something, they want to change the world, or just make their lives better, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that realize that we are living in the global village today, that the planet is well interconnected and everybody knows about everybody else's work. And there is a huge amount of opportunity there to increase the quality of life for the majority of the population of the planet that are not in a fortunate position of living prosperous lives. And if I had any ability to help with that, I would suggest to go after empowering others. And if you look at Kickstarter campaigns, one of my most favorite Kickstarter campaigns is the Micro, the 3D printer. And the reason I like these 3D printers is because they allow others to become successful as inventors and idea generators. And if you make it viable for most portion of the population to have access to this kind of technology, you better everybody's lives. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to do something, do it in a way that empowers others and allows them to be the best they can be. And that way, not only do you become successful, but you also help others to be successful. It's the best of both worlds.
I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard. Just make other people's lives better, and your own will easily benefit as well. Thank you so much for coming on today. Shahriar? I'm terrible with names. Thank you so much for coming on. You've been such an awesome guest. I really hope people reach out to you and thank you for everything that you've shared with them, your story, your journey, and that they check out your campaign. Give yourself a plug. Talk about CoreFX, the business, whatever you want.
Absolute pleasure. Well, CoreFX, in my opinion, is the best experience you can have in terms of being immersed in a entertainment media, be it games, movies, or music. So if you want to literally feel like you're in the middle of the action and stuff is happening to you personally, CoreFX is the way to do it.
Makes sense, guys. Just add that next sense, and you're going to have so much more fun. Check out CoreFX. Shahriar, you've been an amazing guest. I'm sorry I can't pronounce your name. I'm a terrible person. Thank you so much for coming on.
Love it. Thank you so much. See you guys later. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to another episode of The Art of the Kickstart, where we believe makers, inventors, and entrepreneurs are changing the world and bringing humanity forward into the future. I'm your host, Matt Ward, and it's been a pleasure guiding you through this journey of creation and innovation. I hope you're inspired by this and check out artofthekickstart.com to get more information and tactics to help you launch your own business, product, and dreams.